Okay everyone, you know the script by now, day after video, and today it's the day after Celtic won, Shakhtar Donetsk won. We are out of the Champions League. This is what the table looks like. I much prefer the Premiership tables we do when we're top rather than bottom. But yeah, 2 points from 5 games, simply not enough to have any sort of European football after Christmas. The other 3 places still really to be sorted. Real Madrid are confirmed to be going through. Leipzig not yet confirmed, but if they avoid defeat against Shakhtar on match day 6, then I don't know why I'm telling you all this. You don't really care, do you? Celtic are 4th, that's all that matters. Maybe we won't even bother with the group table from the next match day. Let's not mess around on this video. Let's just get right to your comments, because plenty of interesting ones coming in. A lot of different viewpoints as well, which often makes for interesting viewing, let's just say. And there's one slagging me off as well. So let's play the jingle, if it is even a jingle, and then we'll get going. Okay, first one coming in, I believe it's from Fulton S. Mersey, although I've not been able to verify that. The reason I say that is there's another one from the same person at the end. So you either commented twice, Fulton S. Mersey, or I've just had a nightmare. Anyway, we'll just proceed. You're saying you need to put away your chances in this competition. Kyogo in the games should have put a good few away. Kyogo's miss, if you can call it a miss last night, certainly should have done far better than that. Looked like a guy really short of confidence, I would say. Snatched at it, barely even forced the keeper to make a save. It was almost a pass back. I actually felt last night was a little bit different maybe to the other 2 games, and that I didn't feel we actually had the same clear-cut opportunities. Obviously we get a goal, our first one at Celtic Park in the competition, but in terms of clear-cut opportunities, I feel like we had more against Real Madrid than we did last night. The Kyogo one, the Matt O'Reilly one near the end. Giakoumakis has one off the post, but it's a foul, so you don't really count that. So it was a strange one last night, and it was actually the opposition who passed up the most golden of golden opportunities. That one that the fella who'd just come on, I think Sikov his name was, or something like that, who obviously missed the open goal at the back post. But I do think generally looking at the campaign, big missed opportunities have been a part of it. Looking at that matchday 2 match against Shakhtar in Warsaw, that's the big one I look at, that we had to win that game given the real dominance that we had in that match and the chances we created, especially in the second half. And I think even if we'd have won that game and drawn last night, we would have had a fair chance, I think, of making 3rd place going into match day 6, given that our head-to-head would have been better than Shakhtar's. But I guess that is just the story of the campaign, and missed opportunities kind of sums it up to an extent, although I do feel that there were other things that we certainly need to improve on going forward in the competition. We're going to have a wee chat about that throughout this video. Next one coming in is from Jay. Shakhtar pass out from the back like we only wish we could. They have balls of steel and we panic. I think there's always a sense when you go to matches that you feel as if the opposition are far more assured, doing everything basically than your own team. I don't know exactly why that happens. I guess nerves play a part. Having said that, at times I think Shakhtar, Leipzig and Real Madrid have all come to Celtic Park and have all taken chances in their kind of own third, and at times they have played out quite well. I felt Shakhtar a couple of times in the first half last night did give it away when we pressed them, and that's why I wanted to see us going after them a bit more. But at times it does kind of feel like the opposition are able to play through the lines, if you call it that, a bit better than we are. I do think at that level, when we're missing a player like Callum McGregor, who's just so important, integral to the way we play possession-based football, when we're missing him, it does sometimes seem like a matter of time before we are going to give the ball away. And I think, just talking more broadly about things, I guess that's why people are a little bit and I really need to watch what I'm saying in terms of words, given what's going on this week. I'll say people are a little bit downbeat after last night. We are the 4th seeds. We're 4th in the group, 2 points. If you look across the groups, most of our fellow 4th seeds have similar points totals. I mean, Copenhagen have got 2. Maccabi have got, I think, 3. I think they got a win somewhere, but they've lost 4 out of their 5 games. We know Rangers are yet to get a point. Victoria Pilsen and a really hard group are yet to get a point. So, I mean, in general, 4th seeds don't do well in this competition. And I think there needs to be an acknowledgement of that. Unless you're Club Bruges, it's going to be difficult for you as a 4th seed team in the group stage. But I think we all have such high expectations for this team and such belief in these players that I think, speaking for me personally, I'm looking at this group stage when the draw was made, I'm just thinking players like Kyogo, Hatate, Abada, Juranovic are going to light up this competition. I genuinely felt they were going to be incredible and people were going to be scratching their heads going, God, how have Celtic signed all these amazing players? And it just hasn't happened. And for me, that's the kind of frustration. It just feels like a bit of a almost false promise in a way. But hopefully what has happened over the past 5 games and next week at the Bernabeu is going to stand the team in good stead going forward. Hopefully this has just been the making of them under kind of difficult circumstances this year. Ryan Friedman, I'd rather play with an identity than play boring football. We do that. It's what makes this Celtic side great. I much prefer watching Celtic play like this in Europe. I think it's amazing that we're trying to take, teams like Real Madrid on in the first match by playing our way. And I think we've seen signs that it can work as well. And it makes you proud watching it. And I think the support get that too. I think the support are all bought into that's the way we want to play. There was a couple of times last night when Greg Taylor had the ball kind of way deep in the kind of back left-hand corner and he tried to play out. And there was actually one occasion when he played out really well. And I didn't sense the same worry amongst the support that there maybe would have been in times gone by. I think the support is bought into the fact that we're going to try and play out for the back. We're not just going to hoof the ball away because that's what you need to do in Europe. So I think that's encouraging. Equally, a couple of times last night when Rio Hatate had the ball and was either playing at walking pace or he was kind of turning around and passing the ball back, and the roar from the support to tell him not to do that and to go forward, I think again is more evidence of the support buying into the way Ange wants to do things and the fact that we want to take games to these big teams. And I think in general last night, I think we did take the game to Shakhtar, just like the away game. We were the more offensive team in terms of the territory and having the ball in general, but they always had that threat in the counter. But I love the challenge of succeeding at this level. It's hard enough succeeding at this level full stop, but see, trying to do it a certain way, and Ange's way is even more difficult. But it's a great challenge, and I really don't think we're a million miles away. All it could be are a couple of really important signings and a bit more belief, maybe more experience at this level. That's all it may take. And I think the exciting thing is that there are no guarantees. I mean, we might not be able to produce it at this level in terms of results because the opposition, might just be too good for us. And I think with that kind of jeopardy comes a real excitement. If we do manage to do it, it's going to be spectacular. I mean, imagine in years to come if we do get a night where we beat a Real Madrid or someone like that playing this way. It will, all of this kind of heartache or whatever we're feeling at the moment, frustration will be worth it. And I think that's the kind of exciting bit at the end of the line. Moving on, Undercover Productions, back Ange and back him strongly. Sometimes even the order of the games can get any team off on the wrong foot and confidence falls. Criticism adds to the problems, encouragement builds. And I also want to bring in this one from George CAV. For once, Hamish, I think you have lost perspective. It's not the best of all possible outcomes, but about what could be level-headedly expected. Next campaign, more will be expected given we will be more experienced. That's fine, different people feel different ways. Some people are able to just look at last night and kind of brush it off and think, it's fine, we'll be better in years to come. Other people are, pretty frustrated with how this campaign has gone. I would say I'm well aware of the perspective, and I'm kind of in the middle. I'm frustrated with bits, but can also see that we're not a million miles away. And to be honest, I kind of felt that came across in the reaction last night, but maybe not. I do want to just bring in some Ange comments that kind of relate to both George and Undercover's points. Now, Ange, disappointed with the outcome last night, but says he couldn't ask any more from his players. He also says, we know the areas we've fallen short in this campaign. They're the areas we obviously need to improve in, but that only comes with experience and learnings and improvements. That's our task, to take what we've learned this year and improve come next year. We've got to qualify again. We haven't been in this competition for 5 years, and if you do that, then it's very hard to come in and make an impact. Our job and my responsibility is to make sure we are there every year, and if we're there every year and keep chipping away at it, then I think we'll be able to make more of an impact. And just going off that last point, Zip Fried the second, saying these guys need to stick around and try again next season again as champions of Scotland. I think all but one of them will, and I'm sure one or two more faces will make up for that and more. It will be a spell we will look back upon as a harsh learning curve. The alternative is we panic and go backwards akin to Rodgers, attempt to get us playing attractive football on the biggest stage. There is no other way to succeed, just need to get better at it. Now, on the point of Celtic getting back to the Champions League group stage next season and the benefits that this season may have on the future, I want to read out another pretty interesting Ange quote. It's quite lengthy, so I'll go for it. It's up to us to make sure we're in it again next year. That's part of the process. You can't go into this competition every 5 years and expect to make an impact. The first challenge for us is to become a Champions League football club, and that means qualifying every year. With what we've gone through this year and the way we've tested ourselves, there's no doubt, should we qualify again, this group of players will be much better for the experience. They'll understand exactly from the first game what's required and the levels needed, and the understanding of the fine lines between winning a game and not winning a game. I definitely think that this year will help us, but the challenge is qualifying next year, the year after, consistently being at this level. This is a group that's very, very inexperienced in terms of this level of football. Look back at where most of them were playing 12 months ago. Now, this is a point that Ange has been making consistently throughout this Champions League campaign. In fact, if you go back to around the time of the draw, either just before or just after the draw, he was, quoted as saying, effectively in every interview, first of all, it's good just to be back in the tournament. He was being asked about what teams he wanted to draw and, about the draw that we did get. And the first thing that he said in virtually every interview, and I've watched a lot of them, was it's great just to be back in this competition. So he feels that participation at this level is the most important thing, and he's not just talking about this year, he's talking about future years as well. Exposure at this level is key, and let's face it, the way we guarantee more exposure in this competition next season is by winning the Scottish League title this season, and that's well within our capabilities. We can do that. We've got a 4-point advantage. So I think for a second we need to stop and get a sense of perspective. Now, I know it's not a particularly popular thing to do nowadays when opinions are so polarised, and we're seeing that at the moment. Loads of people unhappy, other people, looking at the bigger picture. But we're talking about Celtic succeeding at Champions League level. This is what we're talking about now. We're talking about getting more exposure so Celtic can succeed at Champions League level. And I think when we're talking about succeeding at Champions League level, we're talking about Celtic getting out of the groups, getting to the knockout rounds. Maybe not next season, maybe not even the one after, but that's the big picture here. Is we want Celtic to be a team who can get out of the Champions League groups. Not every season, because there's a fair chance you get 2 major clubs in a group, but occasionally. And at the very least, we're talking about a team who can get third place in the group, virtually every season and guarantee, Europa League football, even though I'm just remembering they're scrapping in a couple of years. So forget everything I just said there about the Europa League spot. But the point here is that we're talking about Celtic at Champions League level and succeeding at Champions League level. And we've not been able to talk about that for like the previous 5 seasons prior to this one. And I think that in itself is major improvement. And yes, it's frustrating and, you know, whatever other word you want to use apart from a certain one, that we've only got 2 points from 5 matches. But we're talking about Champions League football now. We're not talking about the Europa League where we spent so many years. And I don't get the impression, you know, that over the next few years under Ange that we're going to go back to Europa League level. I could be wrong with that, but I get the impression that the Champions League is going to be our level for the next few years, or it's certainly going to be the competition that we play our football in, and we need to try and raise our level so we can get results there. So I think generally it's a positive thing, and hopefully we can use these last 5 matches going forward. And with the right improvements made in personnel, in terms of bringing new players in, because I think we need a few in key positions, and the right improvement in players that are there and the right development in those players at this level, I think we'll see improvements next year. So that's the positive thing that we should have in our minds. Ange tends to know what he's talking about, and he feels exposure at this level is the key thing. So if we keep getting exposure at this level, then that is hopefully what's going to get us to where Ange wants us to be. We've even seen it with other clubs in Europe, the likes of Salzburg, Club Brugge, etc. Even Shakhtar, a team who are in the Champions League every single season. There is no reason, given those 3 names, you know, Shakhtar, Salzburg, Club Brugge, why Celtic can't be similar. There is genuinely no reason. We are bigger clubs than those 3. There is no reason why we can't become, you know, similar level teams under Ange and hopefully beyond Ange as well. Final comment in from Fulton S. Mersey. On to the league now. Get this out our system and crack on with the rest of the season. A treble would be good. I get the sense people will move on from this Champions League campaign relatively quickly. Rightly or wrongly, a few big domestic wins, maybe some drop points across the city, extend our gap at the top, and I think people will be moving on, and this campaign will be a little bit of a distant memory. It's just frustrating to me that we're going to effectively have a full year without playing European matches. I can't remember that being the case any time over the last 10 years. It's usually been, you know, a maximum of maybe 6-7 months, but just with all the factors of the World Cup, meaning that Champions League games are played earlier this year, more condensed, and the fact that we may not have any European qualifiers next summer. Obviously, if we win the league, we'll go straight into the Champions League group stage. Just means that there's a huge gap between Real Madrid on Wednesday and whenever our next European match is. But, you know, we've got domestic football to satisfy us as well, and hopefully the team can just really learn from this experience in the Champions League. It's not always been easy, but we've competed in every single match, and I expect us to compete in Madrid as well. I know there's going to be you know, a fair bit of chat about us getting a doing over there. You know, potentially they're a really good side who beat us 3-0 in Glasgow, so it's always a possibility. But I think we'll give a decent account of ourselves. I think we've given a decent account of ourselves in virtually every match. We just haven't quite had that extra bit of whatever it is, and it's not just finishing at this level. But yeah, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks as always for your comments. Tomorrow we will have Scott McDonald back on the channel. Always interesting to get his take on things, and obviously we can look ahead to Livingston at the weekend as well. If you have any questions or topics you want us to discuss with Scott tomorrow, just fire them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to introduce them to the conversation. We'll chat to you then.